The Podcasting Dead is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Make sure to subscribe for more podcasts. And while you're at it, drop us a like. If you want to help support the channel and have access to extra content, secret contests, and more, make sure to search for us on Patreon. Patreon.com/thepodcastingdead.
All right, happy Monday. Time for another round of Walking Dead What Ifs. I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And, JP, you've got the list. Let's get into it, man. What are we looking at?
Yeah, man, we are diving into the hypothetical in the world of The Walking Dead. First What If scenario is brought to us by Taylor Madden a mere 6 days ago. What if Daryl never met back up with Rick, Michonne, and Carl before Terminus and somehow ended up with Negan and the Saviors? Do you think he would try to stop Negan from killing someone at the lineup because he would recognize Rick and the others?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was ready to die for Rick and them with the Claimers. And I know that might have been more time between, but I mean, Rick and Daryl were tight. You know, at that point, it was after he bit the throat out of that guy. He's like, "You're my brother."
Yeah.
I can't imagine a world where Daryl would have ever just sat back and let Rick and his group get killed.
Yeah, man, and I wonder how long Daryl would have even stuck with the Saviors. I mean, once he saw some innocent person get their brains bashed in, and Negan's taking half of everybody's stuff, I wonder if he would have even, stuck.
Yeah, I don't feel like he would have put up with that very long.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if he would have, fought them. I think he might have just slipped out of there or something. Right. But I don't imagine Daryl. I mean, Rick would have had to have betrayed Daryl for Daryl to sit back and let that happen, I feel, because Daryl was extremely loyal to Rick. And I mean, we even see time and time again when him and Rick get to throwing blows and stuff, Daryl loves Rick. It's more like a sibling fight whenever they have to fight, and no, I think that if we were to watch that situation, we would see Daryl either step up and say, y'all just don't do this. Because, I mean, it almost cost him his life stepping up with the Claimers. I mean, he was very outnumbered. So, I know that Negan has a ton of people, but I don't feel like Daryl. If Daryl didn't, then we would have lost everything that made him Daryl.
Yeah, now I think if Daryl had a split, right after Merle disappeared in the camp in Atlanta and ended up with Negan, then yeah.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
A totally different Daryl, but nah. If it went all the way up to Terminus,
I agree 100%.
Would have held him down.
The time between Merle's disappearance and the absence of Merle, one could argue, are what helped to shape Daryl into who he is, the guy that cares about people, the guy that, goes out of his way to save others and puts his life in risk all the time to try and save people. I think Merle not being around combined with the time he spent with Rick in the group is what helped shape him into who he is now. So, had he have disappeared in the Atlanta situation, he probably would have been right at home with the Saviors.
Probably so. But that's a good one, Taylor. Keep them coming, and we will field you next week, assuming Taylor doesn't have any more up in the lineup. But we're moving on to a Stefan, and Stefan, got to thank you once again for keeping us busy, man. You got a lot of great scenarios. This one is what if Andrea died instead of Amy in season 1, and also branching into another what if Amy went on to become the badass comic Andrea instead in the show? Two separate what ifs. Ooh.
I would have just questioned why they didn't make Andrea, you know what I mean? If they're going to make Andrea's sister basically take Andrea's storyline, then why not just switch the characters and let Andrea take Andrea's storyline? Again, we've said this many times on different podcasts. If you listen, JP enjoyed Andrea. I could not stand Andrea. Love Laurie Holden. I think she's a wonderful actress and seems like an extraordinary human being. But the way Andrea was written was just abysmal. So I can't imagine it wouldn't have been better with her sister. I mean, I didn't really get enough time with her sister to be able to gauge whether or not I'd have liked her more, but I just imagine it really would be hard to not write it better than Andrea's story.
Yeah, true that. So that's a good one. And Stefan is keeping us with Andrea. What if Andrea killed the governor in his sleep like she was supposed to?
Then I might like Andrea.
Yeah, and I guess... golly, I wonder who would have filled that power vacuum, you know what I'm saying? And if they would have stayed
Martinez,
at odds with
probably.
Yeah, probably Martinez.
I don't know that he would have stayed at odds with Rick, though. And Martinez was more not that Martinez was necessarily a particularly good leader. I mean, he did keep his people alive when we reconnected with him in season 4. So maybe he just did whatever the governor told him. I don't think Martinez had any beef with Rick and them. He was just following orders. Martinez was essentially a soldier. I think he said he was a gym teacher in the show, but I mean, like, as far as his role to the governor, he was just pretty much a soldier. You give him a mission, he goes and he does it, and don't question it. And I think, if he was taking over Woodbury, unless Rick and them came too close, I don't know that Martinez would have stayed beefing with Rick if the governor was dead.
And one thing, I definitely don't think Martinez would have gunned down his own people after they took him and run out the prison. So
absolutely not. That's why eventually Martinez left him.
Yeah. So I think things would have been a lot better all the way around if she had done that.
Yeah, I mean, it just I understand her conflict, but at the end, man, when she's dying and she's like, I just wanted to save her. Oh, shut up, Andrea. You clearly knew. Why would you want to save the governor? As everything I could see when you first met him and got seduced, but as time went on, by the point you had a chance to kill him in his sleep, you knew what a sadistic guy he was. Like they didn't go into detail with the Maggie thing, but she had an idea of that he had done something very lewd to Maggie. Like she knew all of this. Like so you can't justify. Anyways,
his dick game was just that good. He laid it. He turned.
The governor knows how to lay it down.
Yeah, he turned Andrea inside out, and she didn't know which way was up, which way was down. She just knew that she wanted to get dicked down by the governor a little bit more. So.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah. The governor knows what he's doing in a sack.
He does. He does indeed. Got some more from Stefan, and this one is pretty interesting. What if Aaron never found the group in season 5? Do you think they could have still survived as long as they did, or would they still have found Alexandria?
That's interesting. I don't know. They weren't really on a collision course with Alexandria until Aaron found them. I don't know. What do you think?
I feel like they would have ran into at least one of these communities, and knowing their luck, it probably would have been the sanctuary, and Negan would have had them on their knees right out the gate. I don't know. I don't know if maybe you know the geography a little bit better than me as far as like how far away from Alexandria they were when Aaron found them. I'm guessing they were in Virginia at that point. Yeah,
I knew they went to Richmond. Remember, with where they lost Tyrese, they went to Richmond, and then I mean they could have definitely eventually found it on their own, or found. It'd been great if they'd have found the kingdom. You imagine just like nobody, and then I feel like some of them would have died off. I just don't know if you could keep a group alive that long on foot on the road. Maybe if they had a couple of vehicles, like a convoy set up, like with a transfer in the lead with some kind of like zombie destroying apparatus attached to the front of it and a lot of gas, perhaps. But I just don't know if they would have been able to keep that many people alive for much longer.
Yeah, because I mean they were just about had it by the time Aaron found them.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, shoot, they were eating dogs at that point, and that was a gourmet feast for them at that point. So I don't know how much longer they would have made it, or who would have made it and who wouldn't have. I mean, of course, you want to say you think Rick would make it because he's kind of the ultimate survivor, but Rick and Daryl both would probably. I don't know. Daryl would have survived because Daryl could just go off in the woods and just, I don't know, man. He's got like X-ray vision when it comes to critters, apparently. Just like see them leaves, it's a frog. So I don't know, man. I feel like Daryl would have survived. I feel like Carl would have survived. Rick would have died to have let Carl survive.
Baby Judith.
I was going to say, I don't know about Judith. He's like, you're Shane's baby.
Yeah.
You find your own food like your daddy.
I definitely think, I mean, they were headed for D.C. I think they definitely would have found D.C., and Alexandria is so close to that.
Yeah.
I feel like they would have got there, but at the same, I don't think everyone would have made it.
No, I feel like some would have had to have died at that point or stayed behind or just something, because it's, it would have been a tough situation.
That's true.
Arrive in the kingdom and just, Rick, it was funny watching Rick meet Ezekiel, but it would be funny to watch Rick after being on the road for so long and not really having a chance to get any sanity back. The kingdom.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh boy. But yeah, that Aaron definitely pulled their goose out the oven.
Welcome, weary travelers. Fill thine bellies, and then follow me to the barn of pleasures.
Yeah, and speaking of which, here's a good one. What if instead of Morgan crossing over to Fear, Victor Strand crossed over to The Walking Dead?
We'd all be a lot happier.
Yeah, I think we would, and I think the Barn of Pleasures would be going overtime 24/7. Yeah.
Hello, Aaron. It's nice to meet you. I just feel like that would have been the power couple, Victor Strand and Aaron. They would be together. They're both, they're both in great shape. They're both, strong-minded people. I feel like Aaron and, especially after Jesus died, I really thought the direction they were going was Aaron and Jesus having a little bit of a relationship.
Yeah.
And, but of course they took Jesus out before they could really get into that. So I would much rather see Strand in the Walking Dead universe than Morgan in the Fear of the Walking Dead.
Yeah, me too.
Negan, I hear you did some horrible things, but I'm not going to lie. You look good.
Yeah, I'm about to do some horrible things to you.
I, too, have done some terrible things, and I'm going to do some terrible things.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, we love Victor Strand. So, yeah, man, that'd be awesome. I even dare say, I don't know. I never wanted to lose Morgan. I think Lenny James is amazing. And I liked Morgan on the show. But, I mean, I still would have been even more okay with maybe trading the two just to see a crossover. Yeah. But yeah, I would have loved to have kept Morgan and then had Victor Strand come over.
Me too. I would have loved to have seen him just come over immediately.
Oh, shut up.
Stefan's got another good one here, taking us to one of your favorite seasons and one of your favorite leading ladies of The Walking Dead.
Okay.
What if Jesse and Sam died and Ron lived? Because if you think about it, the only reason Ron died was because he put a gun to Rick and Carl, causing Michonne to stab him. Or do you think they all had to die right there? Could any have survived?
Yeah, Jess could have survived if she realized she raised just some bitch-ass children and could have, which I'm a parent, so I get it. I mean, you no matter how bad your child sucks, you're willing to go down with them because you just have this, love for them. However, Jess, number one, she shouldn't have brought Sam out there.
Nah, she should have locked him in a closet, put him in, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, put him in a soundproof, something. Like, she should have done, because they ended up going back to Alexandria. It wasn't like Alexandria was lost. She should have locked him in a closet, something, man. You should have known better than to bring that kid out. But I don't feel like Ron always had it out for Carl. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like even if Jess and Sam died and Ron would have survived, of course Rick would have tried to take care of him because Rick, was feeling his mama. And but eventually I feel like we would have come around to the exact same situation. Hell, he might have been successful in killing Carl if that didn't happen, to which I'm not going to lie. As much as I would hate that, I would have much rather seen Carl die that way, in a way that just makes you hate this character, and so much better drama that's organic and makes sense other than the way that he did die. So, I feel like he still would have died. Now, he may have taken Carl with him or not, but I feel like either way Ron would have died, or he may have gone off to become a later, imagine if they would have had him kill Carl, which I'm not saying I'm for, I just really didn't like the way Carl died. Almost any way is better than the way that he died. But, let's say he killed Carl and then took off. Rick never could catch him or find him. And then, all these years later, he reemerges as a villain, which wouldn't have the same impact with Rick and Michonne gone now. But, let's imagine maybe in season 9, before Rick leaves, he reemerges as a villain, however. Maybe even in the Rick movies. I don't know. I could have seen some really cool things come from that. But
yeah, that's...
Either way, he had to die. He had evil in his heart, and that's all it was. To which, can you blame him, though? Before we, I didn't like Ron. I don't think we were supposed to like Ron, but we got to give a little sympathy to the devil here. I mean, Rick just showed up to town. I mean, yes, his dad was an abusive asshole, but we see this from the outside. We're not his child. People in abused families, sometimes they still love the people. It's a terrible situation to be in. So, I mean, you're just living this civilized life and everything's cool. Yeah, the world's ended around you, but you're good to go. And then this marvelous bearded man shows up, starts making moves on your mom, murders your dad, and just turns your world upside down. I mean, he had every reason to hate Rick and Carl, So, I mean, he's trying to look a little bit from his side. But with that said, I still didn't like him.
Yeah, like you said, he was definitely written to be a prick. everyone was glad.
I love when Carl was. What did Carl tell him? Your dad wasn't your dad was an asshole, or your dad was a dick, or something to that effect. You remember when they're in the shed, and he's just like, "Yeah, my dad killed your dad. It sucks, but you know what? Your dad was an asshole." Like, damn.
Oh man. Stefan's got some more good stuff for us. Could there have been a world, or what if? What if Maggie and Rick got together at some point, or instead of Glenn and Maggie, it was Rick and Maggie? Hello.
Oh man.
Hello.
I would have. I kind of thought that's where they were going to go, because in the comic, of course, that never happened. But Maggie also in the comic seemed to be a little bit younger than I think she feels like she is in the show. I don't know. But I thought they were going to go that way. I thought after Glenn died, there might be a chance that Maggie and Rick were going to get together. I thought it was something they were going to do to spice it up and to throw comic readers off. And Maggie could have kind of taken a little bit of Andrea's story from the comics. But I could have seen that. I don't know if that in the beginning, though, because Rick just had so much respect for Herschel, and Maggie, of course, would have been legal and perfectly okay, but I feel like Rick wouldn't have crossed that line with Herschel, at least not that early on, before her and Glenn had a chance to get together. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I totally feel you.
Because he wouldn't have left. He won't leave Lori. I mean, even though she was an absolute douchebag, I don't feel like at any point. I feel like he was devoted, even if they weren't speaking. I mean, I don't think he would have just went off and been like, "Screw you, Lori. I love this young lady." I don't know why he's Bill Clinton all of a sudden, but yeah, I mean, so Glenn and Maggie got together before Rick would have ever had a chance to get with her in the first place.
Yeah, and in my head, I was like, well, what if Glenn had have died in the prison? I wonder if Rick would have hooked. But I don't think. I think he's the type that'd be like, out of respect for my friend's memory, I'm not going to smash that butt. So.
Oh, yeah, out of respect for Glenn, who saved me, and your father, whom I love very much, I cannot please that booty.
And see, I would have been the opposite. I would have been like, out of respect for my dear friend, I'm going to take care of his
I'm going to make sure you stay pleased.
Yeah, out of respect for my friend, out of love for him. I don't want some...
God, in fact, let's go do it on its grave.
Right, yeah, why not?
Yeah, no, I don't know that there ever could have been a world where Rick and Maggie got together that early on. Now, again, post Glenn's death, post Jess and Lori's death, yeah, I could have seen that happening like during the All Out War, or even at the end of All Out War, but it didn't. Rick got with Michonne, someone equally badass, and they were just like the ultimate power couple.
Yeah. And speaking of love triangles, what if Abraham never left Rosita for Sasha? How would things have changed?
Well,
Rosita wouldn't have been thotting around quite as much. That's for sure.
Rosita was certainly enjoying, and I don't blame her, man. You're a young, hot girl, man. Go out and get yours. You know what I mean? But she definitely was just kind of feeling about town after that. But
yeah.
But I don't know, man. How would it have been different? I mean, I feel like Sasha's death wouldn't have been as sad. I feel like Abraham, because some people didn't seem to notice it, and I'm not usually the one to catch the teeny tiny details, but I did notice, as Negan was getting ready to kill him, he threw up the peace sign.
Oh, yeah.
Was doing that, like saying goodbye to Sasha, and to me, that shit just hit me right in the feels. Mm-hmm. Like, I was like, oh, God. But I don't really know if it would have changed the story that much, because ultimately Sasha ended up dead. Rosita was still furious that they killed Abraham and still pretty much out for revenge. I felt like the Sasha thing was, and I know they were following the comics. That's the thing, because in the comics, it's Holly that Abraham ends up like ditching out on Rosita for. But so I feel like they wanted to continue that story arc, but just decided, we'll do it with a character you know better. I don't know, man. I didn't mind Sasha and Abraham together, but it just didn't click. Which I'm not gonna say that Abraham and Rosita really clicked either, because it's like I don't know. But I don't really know. Being that they both died, I just don't know that it would have been any different.
Yeah, agreed.
Because they all ended up at the, it's not like one could argue, well, Rosita stayed back. So if Abraham were with Rosita, he would have stayed back at Alexandria, perhaps, and then wouldn't have been in the lineup and maybe wouldn't have died. I mean, Rosita, Sasha, and Abraham all ended up on their knees in front of the Savior. So, I mean, I feel like the end result would not have changed much at all.
Yeah, same here.
Sasha probably still would have done what she did because Sasha had become a badass, and I mean, I don't. I mean, maybe one could argue Abraham's death pushed her over the edge and made her just be willing to go on a kamikaze mission, but I feel like she had that in her anyways. I feel like she was I feel like she cared about the group. I feel like she was had become a badass. So I feel like Sasha would have done that anyways if it meant saving the people she cared about.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it pretty much would have stayed on the same course.
Right.
Well, let me paint a picture for you.
Oh, I love when you paint. So
Rick had Carl to keep him human. Negan had nothing to keep his humanity in check. So here's the what if. What if Negan's wife survived her cancer and never died?
Oh, I feel like Negan would have been a totally different person.
Yeah, like Stefan's saying here, Rick had that link to his past, link to the old world, link to being civilized. Negan didn't have that. All he had was that survival instinct and an insatiable lust for group sex.
And then keep in mind that Negan's just a horn dog. I mean, here it's Negan, and being that we don't have a Negan backstory, not a real fleshed out backstory in the show, I'm just going to refer back to the comic and assume that's kind of the same route they're taking, because everything he said is lined up with what happened in the comics in the sense of his wife died of cancer. But I mean, in the comics, he was banging some other chick out when, while his wife was dying. So I mean, well, was it before or was it during or before? It's been a while since I've read Here's Negan, but I know it was like right around in the same time frame. It might have been right before, then he found out and he was by her side, but we know he loved her. He just was a horn dog.
Yeah.
But I do believe, had Lucille survived cancer, now if Lucille never got cancer and then she survived and I don't know if she would have been able to control him or not. But almost losing her kind of set his priorities straight. So had she have had cancer, almost died, but survived and then made it into the apocalypse, knowing how close he was to losing her, I think Negan would have she would have kept him in check, because Negan would never want to risk losing her again.
I think so, too. I think he definitely would have been a different kind of leader, maybe a little bit more compassionate, but still willing to bash somebody's head in.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those kind of, that's what I love about stories like this and character studies, is like people are a product of their environment, I feel, So like Negan had just the perfect storm, at least in the comics, to create who he became.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like if his wife would have survived cancer, he almost lost her, but he didn't, and then was with him in the apocalypse, I feel like we would have a totally different Negan.
Yeah, same here. That's a good one. That's a real skull thumper, Stefan. So thank you for that. And here's another pretty good one. Speaking of lost love, what if Morgan had put down his Walker wife like he was supposed to in episode 1? That
would be interesting, because he wouldn't have went crazy when Dwayne wouldn't have gotten killed. Morgan wouldn't have went quite as crazy. I don't know if he would have ever went crazy. You know what I mean? Like his son dying is what set him over the edge. So we might have a completely defenseless Morgan. I mean, in the sense of he wouldn't have become like a stick-wielding ninja. I liked what they did with this character, but I know it's a show about zombies and it's unrealistic, but you're never going to justify stabbing zombies in the head with a blunt stick.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Skulls don't rot like that. You know what I'm saying? Like the skin, like I could understand knives go in a little easier because the skin's decayed. It's less resistant. You're basically just stabbing through the skull, but the whole thought that they're so rotten. Number one, if they're that rotten that you could take a blunt stick and just stab them in the head, I feel like just a left hook would obliterate their head. You know what I'm saying? Like you could just, boom, and the head would fall apart.
Yeah, I think I might be wrong about this. A lot of times bones calcify and get even harder.
And I know that sometimes he went through the eye socket, but there are times when he didn't, and it just
straight in. Yeah.
It to me that was. Ugh. But anyways, that's not the question. Just love the show, but sometimes you have to just veer off for a second.
Yeah.
I feel like Morgan would have. I feel like over time Morgan would have definitely gotten back with Rick in the group if he would have actually went ahead and dealt with losing his wife, which I would hope that killing his wife wouldn't have set him over the edge. I don't know. I feel like if he would have taken out his wife in the way that he should, and his son was still alive, then I feel like eventually he would have radioed Rick, probably gotten with the group, and I think then we would have had a much closer story to the comics, where Morgan wasn't really this brave stick-wielding ninja. He was just more of a regular guy trying to survive.
Yeah.
Without the guilt of losing his son.
Yeah, he wouldn't have that tragic hero angle. So, yeah, and maybe he wouldn't be like such a peacenik like he is now.
That's my thing, man. The whole Morgan thing, the fact that it went from, every life is precious, Daryl, to I'm going to kill everybody. To back and forth just got so aggravating. Like, I would have loved what we should. Jesus had the perfect destination for that character with a stick analogy, with the pointed end is for the dead, the round ends for the living. Yeah. Like Rick, with Morgan understanding if he can save someone, then he'll save them. If they don't need to die, he's not going to kill them. However, certain people, the only way you're ever going to rid yourself of them is to take them out.
That's true.
Again, you can go back and listen to old podcasts. I only say this for those that are new. I still maintain that instead of Carl having this whole change of heart, and it could have built to that with Carl, but instead of Carl just having this, there's got to be something more. It should have been Morgan that died. I think Morgan should have been one of the ones to maybe even get the bat. And I say that because as much as that would have sucked, or he should have died in battle, because it made so much more sense that he built the jail cell, that he had been promoting peace, and that every life is precious, and we don't just kill people because we have conflict with them. We try to, that would have made the perfect sense as to why Rick let Negan live. Mm-hmm. That would have all been, it would have given him a glorious death. He would have been memorable. He'd have had a lasting impact on the show that made sense. I still think that's the way Morgan should have played out.
Yeah, same.
And that's with love. Again, I love Lenny James as Morgan, so I don't want to lose him. But if we do, I want it to be in a very meaningful way.
Absolutely.
Not over on Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah. Another good one, Stefan. He definitely keeps us busy, and we're going to round it out with a few other listeners. Got one from a great listener, great friend, patron, Owen Mizan.
Hey.
Always love hearing our views on how things would pan out. Well, we love that you love to hear it.
We do.
A lot. What if we were both given the opportunity to write the script for season 10 finale? And Owen, I would have Negan and Maggie hooking up as the cliffhanger.
Is that what you said?
Is that what Owen said? He had listened to previous podcasts where I said it would be a great angle to see Negan and Maggie hooking up. God,
that would be so. Down the road I could see it, but I just don't ever see Maggie sleeping with a guy who made her a widow. But man, if we got to write the script for the finale, well, number one, I would definitely have, and again, spoilers in the comics. I wonder, all right, here's the deal. We're about to have, I don't know, because they say we're going to get the Negan and Beta brawl. I wonder if Negan's just going to be the one to kill Beta, because, the Negan Beta brawl happened a little bit earlier, and then Aaron and Jesus ended up taking him out later on. I wonder if we're just going to have, but I would have, would you have Negan take Beta out? I'm just trying to do main plot points here. Would you have Negan? Because it makes sense that Beta's coming for Negan. Negan decapitated the love of Beta's life. You know what I'm saying? So it makes perfect sense, honestly, in the show universe that Beta's life ends by Negan's hand, because I wonder if they'll do a 1-2 punch. Negan and Beta will go at it. It'll be a good brawl, but ultimately Beta is going to get the upper hand, and then Aaron or Rosita or someone's going to show up and take him out, much like they did in the comics.
Yeah, I definitely want to see in this last episode of season 10, Negan and Beta throwing down. I
want it to be a good fight.
Not getting freaky, but getting fighting each other to the death. I'd love to see Negan, man, just kill him.
Just beat him to death.
Beat him to death, and just that be the end of the Whisper story.
Well, again, spoilers. There's going to be a lot of spoilers for the comics here, because that's kind of what you have to draw off of when you're writing your script. But, in the comics, Negan breaks his bat over Beta's back. Yes. How badass would it be for the same thing to happen, similar, but instead of the back, Negan bashes Beta's skull in. They fight. It's a big, long, grueling battle. Negan gets his ass kicked, but finally gets the upper hand, gets Beta on the ground, and actually is the one to take him out. But in doing so, completely destroys Lucille. It's kind of turning a chapter, you know what I mean? That's the last brain he'll ever bash in with Lucille. Lucille's gone. He has to move on. He just killed a big bad to save former enemies. I mean, it kind of would just have so much symbolism in him bashing in Beta's brains, but Lucille being destroyed in the process.
Yeah, man. And
that's something I would for sure do.
And what would be pretty cool, like he's standing over Beta's dead body, and then all the Whisperers who had been fighting just kneel down to Negan, and he takes them all back to the sanctuary, and now it's just like a second chance for him to do things right this time.
That would be really interesting.
Like a Whisperer rehab, but it's at the sanctuary, and Negan, instead of like melting your face, he just gets you to sit down on a couch and he talks about
yeah. So I hear you were trying to bang one of my wives.
Yeah.
Please don't kill me. Kill you? My goodness, no. Hold on, let me slip on this cardigan. It's a bit nippy in here. Have a seat on Negan's couch. Now, why do you feel the need to mess with one of my wives? I don't know that I don't know if I would go that direction, because I just don't know that anyone would ever be okay with Negan knowing Negan has another sanctuary, like another
army.
Like, I don't know that would ever go well. And I feel like, I don't know. That is interesting, but I would like to see. I would like to see Negan kill Beta. I love the idea of of Negan basically bashing his brains in, but it destroys Lucille, and you kind of just have this whole symbolic moment of Negan's truly turned over a new leaf. There's no Lucille really to hold him back, and so that would happen. And I hate to keep saying I would follow the comics so closely, but Gabriel would get his comic death because it was so gnarly. Yeah. Like, it has to transpire. Maggie's coming back. I don't know. I feel like I'm just going off of what they've already done, man. If we'd almost have a whole nother podcast on that, because I'd have to sit down and really think about that. But that's a great question, man. We'll touch a little bit. I mean, but instead of rewriting the whole script right now, because I believe we'd be here for another 4 hours.
Right.
Just give me. All right, I'm going to give 2 main plot points that I would have happen, and then you give me 2 that you would have happen. But remember, we're writing the script together. So, I'm going to put my 2 down, and then you come up with 2 more. Gotcha. So, of course, Negan and Beta, that's a main plot point. And then, Negan and Beta. And then I'm going to go with Gabriel's comic death, unless you could think of someone who deserves it more.
No, I think that would fit well. I think probably the last scene should be, it should definitely have to do with Eugene and company out on the road. Maybe they get their first glimpse of a great big sprawling community.
Oh, you're right. I completely forgot about them.
That would kind of be the bookend,
And I loved Princess. I can't believe I completely forgot. We're just so all thinking about this big final battle with the Whisperers. I'm glad you thought about that. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's a good plot point. What would be another one?
Let's see. Definitely got to have that.
I'm glad you thought about that. I completely just spaced that they're on the road, and we definitely have to see the Commonwealth, or at least catch a glimpse of it before the end of this episode, for sure.
That's true. I know they've wrapped it up. I almost want to say I'd like to just a little check-in with Michonne, but I know that that's done. Michonne is not going to be on the show, at least not anytime soon.
We miss you, Michonne.
Yeah, I mean, as
you were
much
the badass
as
we all needed.
I know it's not in the cards, so we'll just forget about that.
Yeah, sadly, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
You got one more? I mean, you want to think of something with Judith, with Daryl? I mean, where do we leave Daryl at on this?
Oh, man.
We got 3 plot points right now. We just need one more.
Maybe, before it's all said and done, Maggie comes back, and she's like, all right, Daryl, well, Jesus is dead, and obviously we got to get the hilltop back in order. I need you to be my right hand, and I could also use those hands for a little something else. And they kiss up on the balcony of the mansion of the hilltop. Does it have a balcony? I can't remember.
The hilltop's pretty much gone.
Yeah. So maybe they just stand on the smoldering rubble, and they're like, "We got to rebuild this, babe."
Babe. Well, nice, good question, man. I like that.
Yeah, good stuff. Kenneth Martinez, what if Beta never killed Gamma?
Oh, I mean, they would have definitely had... if he wouldn't have killed her, I mean, I really don't think we'd be any different place than we are right now.
Yeah, I don't think it would be
she just would be with them in this place, ready to battle. I feel like she was going to die regardless. I feel like if Beta didn't kill her then, she would have been killed in the battle with the Whisperers.
Yeah.
But if not, if you want to imagine a world where she survives this whole ordeal, I imagine she would. Her driving force was her nephew.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe she would have. Let's just say, for the sake of this what if, that she survives. Beta didn't kill her, and then she survives, because she would definitely be an asset against the Whisperers. I just feel like she would definitely die. She's a target, They would, but let's say she survives. I feel like she would have adopted her, like Alden would have seen her. He in the show he saw her prove herself by basically being killed by Beta. She gave him a couple of different instances where he realized that she was trying to help, but I feel like Alden would have seen her there battling with them and realized, okay, she's not a bad guy, and eventually she would have raised her nephew in her sister's stead.
Yeah.
I feel like that's about as complete as her story could really get.
I think so too, man. I think that's pretty much how it would have played out. But we're not going to see it now. So
no, she's got it.
Yeah, but good what if, Kenneth, and we're just as stoked as you, I'm sure, to see how this season wraps up. We got one more. Got to thank everybody who commented and gave us scenarios, and we're going to wrap it up with Disney Rocks a mere 4 days ago. Great video, guys. Had me laughing at the get-go. Lady Negan and Alpha, ain't gonna lie, I'd watch, and I think we'd both watch too.
No doubt.
Goes on to say Dale definitely would not be allowed in the Barn of Pleasures. We can also agree on that.
Poor Dale.
And here we go into this setting up this scenario.
I just imagine the Barn of Pleasures going on, right? And they won't let Dale in, but he's doing that Dale face.
Yeah.
And he's just standing outside the window while like Andrea and Shane and everyone are just going at it, making the same face he made at Shane, just
he looks like a constipated owl. That's what he looks like.
He's just outside with that little rifle on his shoulder and his hat in his hand, and he's just very judgingly giving Dale face as all the Walking Dead characters are banging it out.
I imagine, and maybe we've already talked about this, but the scene with him and Shane where he's down by the creek holding a big sack of rifles. I imagine he's got a big sack of dildos and stuff, and Ezekiel comes down there to confront him. And
he's like, man, this is a good place for hiding. This is a great place to hide. Look, Dale, just because you're not allowed in the Barn of Pleasures doesn't mean you have to ruin it for everyone. And then he'd, cock his rifle, and King Ezekiel would be like, now let me tell you something, Mr. Man. Give me the dildos.
Yeah, what did Dale say? I might not last long in this world, but at least the world didn't take me, or something like that.
Right, yeah. Well, he told Shane, he's like, I might not have what it takes to make it in this world. That's fine. At least I can say when it went to shit, it didn't drag me down with it.
And Ezekiel would just be like, well, society may not have taken you, but I'm about to take you right here and now.
You want the Barn of Pleasures, little man? You're gonna get it. No, I imagine he would be like, he'd make a similar statement to Ezekiel, but it would be about sex. The world may have went to sex, but at least I can say it didn't bend me over with you. Oh, Dale, talking about bending over. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Just when you said that, I just imagined it, like it just uncontrolled thought just popped in my head, like the barn's got a window and they're all in there just doing their Barn of Pleasures activity, and Dale's just making that stank face like he smelt a fart, just staring in, like watching Andrea with his little rifle in his hat.
Yeah. Good.
Or like he's on top of the RV with the binoculars.
Right. Oh, boy. Well, Disney Rocks has painted a picture for how they think Season 10 should wrap up, I think.
Okay.
They think, I hope it's Daryl who fights Beta, and Negan has to jump in and save Daryl when Beta gets the better hand. What if, when this is happening, Maggie witnesses Negan saving Daryl?
Okay, now that I can get down with, but my thing is we've had the Daryl Beta fight, so I at first I jumped too quick because when you said Daryl and Beta, I was like, we already had that, and don't get me wrong, I'd love to see him rumble again, but I thought you were going to say instead of Negan and Beta.
Yeah.
So I'm perfectly fine with that. In fact, I think that would be great because Daryl's just in the process of not really trust. Well, he's never going to be friends with him, but he's just learning to trust Negan. Negan's already saved him once. So to have Negan jump in and save him again would be great, because you are building the foundation of that relationship between Daryl and Negan. And then I love the idea of, as long as we get to have a full-out brawl, I don't want Negan just to run in and one-shot his ass. I want maybe, Beta's about to kill Daryl, and then Negan just like jumps in there and they have a good little brawl. But at the end, Negan gets the upper hand, and perhaps like as he's finishing killing him, he looks up, and then you just see Maggie standing up on a ridge, and she sees that Negan has saved Daryl. I don't know if it'll play out like that, but that's a great idea, Disney Rocks. I like that. Yeah,
pretty cool, and a lot of cool scenarios. And let's just hope that the season does wrap up half as well as we're all imagining it's going to be.
Maggie's gonna think everybody's lost their damn mind. She's gonna show up, Negan's loose, and some of them trust him, and
people walking around with skin masks on.
Yeah, I'm really anxious to. I mean, we got a little bit of it, but I'm anxious to hear that letter that she reads, where it says Jesus is dead, Tara's dead, Enid's dead. It's a group of people that call themselves the Whisperers. And, I've read that Maggie has not been at the Commonwealth. Like, I don't know how true that is. That was a while back. But I remember we thought surely Georgie and them are from the Commonwealth. But I had read that the writer said, no, Maggie's not at the Commonwealth. But maybe she is. Maybe she'll be the one to step outside the. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And I mean, I get that they had to write her off because of Lauren Cohen's attempt to do a cop.
The Whiskey
drama.
Cavalry.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Join us each Thursday night for fun-filled adventure
that you've seen a million times on other detective shows or cop drama or whatever you want to classify it as. So I get that, but I mean, it really has to be someplace special if she's been gone this long.
Yeah. For sure.
But thank you so much for all the Walking Dead What If questions. You help the show keep going. Please, in the comments, drop more of them, because we just love to discuss this show. We love to have your feedback. And if you disagree with anything that I've said, that JP said, man, throw it in the comments. This isn't a debate on who's the superior Walking Dead fan. We love it. Just like with Disney Rocks, I immediately and presumptuously dismissed I want to see Daryl and Beta fight, because I was like, we've seen that. I want to see Negan. But then it was great. So I love it. I love it when somebody can suggest something that we hadn't thought of.
That's right. It's an open forum, so let her rip.
Yeah, let the comment section be a forum. And tell us how you think Dale would handle the rejection of not being allowed in the Barn of Pleasures.
Yeah, we need to hear about that.
I should have just let Andrea blow herself up.
Yeah.
Oh man, but we'll catch Patreon patrons tomorrow for our Patreon exclusive podcast. If you're not a patron, consider checking that out. At only $1 a month gets you 8 extra podcasts.
Can't beat it.
Nah, you can't. What do they say in the South? You can't beat it with a stick.
That's right.
But yeah, please check that out. And if not, just leave us a like or a comment. Or if you absolutely hate this, then we're sorry to have wasted your time.
Yeah. True.
But either way, we appreciate you, we love you, and we'll see you soon. We'll be back on public platforms Wednesday for Weird Wednesday.
That's right.
In the meantime, I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead.